I swear, if the Democratic Party aligned with most of my views, which is like, you know what, lighten up on the gun thing, that whole DEI thing, ditch that platform, let that go. That's just hurting you. It's racism on the other side. Then we would not be losing the culture wars like we do.
But wait, yeah, I feel like this is like a Fifi's over facts situation here because
Fifis?
Like feelings, because like in reality, the Republican Party, I mean, listen, the Democrats right now are in disarray. There's like a meme like Dems in disarray, and it's always like,
okay,
but right now it's literally happening right now. There's some chaos right now for sure. There's infighting. There's uncertainty. It's like scary to be a Democrat. No. I'm saying it feels like Republicans always get everything they want and Democrats are always fighting. It's actually been the opposite for 6 years now, since 2018. Democrats have, I don't know about that, but like particularly in the last 6 years, the Democrats have been like really unified. I mean, Pelosi did a phenomenal job of like keeping that caucus together, even with sort of like the insurgent forces like Cori Bush and Ilhan Omar and all them. Like they lined up behind the Democratic Party apparatus. And when you look at, and we've been winning elections over and over and over again, like we've just been crushing Republicans in elections. And then when you look at the Republicans, they ousted their own House Speaker for the first time in history. Marjorie Taylor Greene tried to oust the second one because he wasn't extreme enough for them. And they made Donald Trump their nominee, even though he's been like dragging the party down for 6 years, just in terms of electoral.
I think maybe as a Trump voter, like who's not a Republican, like I like that Trump upsets and ruins Republican plans. I like that. When they have their like little Mitch McConnell, we're going to do this and that and support Israel and that's about it and give lip service to everything else. I enjoy that he upsets them and that he causes problems in their bullshit, corrupt hierarchy. Like that, super the same way that like Trump, like I think a lot of people are like me in that they vote for Trump because he's a real fuck you vote to establishment Republicans and to Democrats and to the media and to these unelected bureaucrats in the FBI and the CIA who clearly really don't like him. And so like I don't think that can be understated. Like people talk about the silent Trump voter. It's like, no, they were just people like me who weren't like MAGA hat wearing people. They're just people who are like, oh, this guy, he's hated by all these institutions and these structures that I hate. Well, fuck those structures, fuck those institutions. If they dislike him, that's my guy for now.
That goes to my point, Taylor. Like there's weaknesses in the Democratic platform that frustrate me, because when Republicans say fuck you to, for example, guys being able to choose anyone being able to choose their sex, right? Like, I'm a girl now. Boom. I'm going to start participating in swimming. That makes my side look terrible, and I don't like it. And I'm like, oh man, why do we have this weakness that we can't condemn or, amputate? Why do we have to sit here and defend that Penn State woman who dominated women's swimming, or she was a Division I man the year before? It wasn't some like years and years of hormone therapy. Did you see her? She has a body I would kill to have. Right.
So far that hasn't. I mean, this election is like Biden is exceptionally weak candidate, and so we'll see how that goes. But so far that has not translated. The culture war stuff has not translated to electoral wins. They tried to run on the trans
it has.
Stuff in 2022.
That's why the governor of Virginia is a Republican. They sat there and ran against.
That's one incident. I mean, the governor of Virginia's situation was also that's one.
Woody running unopposed with another victory.
We've also seen Democrats flip multiple state legislatures, multiple Supreme Courts. We've seen them flip multiple gubernatorial seats. We've seen them turn Arizona and Georgia blue in 2020. Probably not going to happen in 2024. But anyways,
it frustrates me when I feel like Republicans are chasing ghosts, right? Like critical race theory, or these imaginary rapes that happen when cross-dressers go in the wrong bathroom. And I'm like, why can't we just amputate this weakness out of our platform?
You mean the trans shit? That's the weakness you want to amputate?
Yeah, because I think that it's a big part of the frustration and it's indefensible, right? Or DEI. Let's do that one, right? Why is it not a meritocracy?
Like That's the Civil Rights Act, isn't it? Like DEI is everything that we're now at with trans shit in sports and DEI in general is like the inevitable culmination of how the Civil Rights Act was crafted. I mean, it's like a cornerstone of your party, isn't it?
I don't think so.
I think DEI goes a little bit further than the Civil Rights.
I see where
we're talking about like
Dick's
corporate structure.
Further, yeah, that's I mean, Civil Rights Act is this, so yeah, let's make it illegal to hire white people then. I mean, that's what the extension of what we've written down here is. So
yeah, it doesn't come from civil rights though. This is a kind of racism that frustrates me. Like to do the whole like these guys are excluded. I don't like that. We should just go to merit base. Now we do this thing where like we overlook people for certain races in college admissions. I know the Supreme Court ruled against that, but I like that Supreme Court ruling. Why does the Democratic platform have this non-meritocracy plank in it?
Well, so the premise there is that. Sorry, go ahead, Dick.
I was just going to say the Civil Rights Act is what gave the government the right to look at race and how people are doing like their private businesses.
No, I don't think so.
It's in the act though. It sets up the
not true.
Affirmative action came in the 80s or 90s.
The affirmative action did, but the Civil Rights Act said we can.
You're just making things up. I don't think so.
What do you think Title IX? When it says Title IX, what do you think it's referring to?
Stuff that other than that.
Title IX of the Civil Rights Act.
Well, dude, I love that. I love that defense tactic, Woody. Stuff fucking other stuff. That is
what Dick did for an hour. Just be like, that's not what I think.
As far as the trans stuff goes, like I think there are obvious like good faith debates to have about like sports and how we structure sports, and I'm fine with those conversations. But there was a really interesting letter that the governor of Utah, Governor Cox of Utah, wrote last year or the year before when the state legislature passed a law banning trans kids from competing in sports that correspond with their chosen identity. And he wrote this like beautiful, I thought it was a beautiful letter. And he highlighted what I think is the real problem, which is the fact that there were a total of 4 trans students that were participating in sports in the entire state of Utah. 3 of them were trans boys. 1 of them was a trans girl. And he highlighted the fact that gender affirming care leads to substantially reduced, from all the volume of data that we have so far, substantially reduced instances of suicidality.
Those studies are from pro-trans firms largely.
These studies
it is tremendous. Like, dude, the idea that, like, see, this is a culture war thing that I can like dislike, is the idea that there are trans kids. That's ridiculous. You're gonna put sexually confused kids. You're going to put sexually confused kids on hormone blockers that will permanently alter their physiology as adults. That's insane.
You typically don't do hormone blockers until like late teens. Puberty blockers are the extent. There are some countries in Europe that are like pausing that to take a second look at it. But I challenge you to like.
Do you think a 12-year-old can consent to having their biology neutered and destroyed at that age?
There are no 12-year-olds that are getting that actual sex changes. I don't know where you're getting that.
No, they're being put on hormone therapy. But do you, yes or no, think
I don't even think 12-year-olds are getting hormone therapy. Again, the hormone therapy you typically don't prescribe that until they're in their late teens.
Yeah, they are. And they are being put on that. There was a TLC show.
They were in Texas. Well, hang on. I mean, like
hormones or puberty blockers.
Here's like
that is
like that's what this whole thing in Texas is going on, where this doctor, this whistleblower who was speaking out about these
this shit is despicable
to 11 to 17-year-olds in Texas. The Justice Department is taking him on right now. He's got a ton of charges.
Puberty blockers, right?
Yeah, the puberty blocker drug they use is the same one they use for chemically castrating.
Puberty. It says the quotation is puberty blockers and hormone hormones to children between the ages of 11 and 17.
Like, what do you think the difference is between hormones and puberty blockers? If you put a healthy child on estrogenic hormones, that will block their puberty.
Puberty blockers are meant to delay puberty, and hormone therapy will actually induce like a physiological change in the body. There is a substantive difference between the two. I mean, I'm interested in that.
Do you think either one is okay? You think one of those is okay?
Hold on. I'm interested in having a conversation. I'm interested in looking at the data, whatever it shows, And I'm agnostic. I'm whatever it is. I have no inherent bias one way or another. But what you can't dispute is that, generally speaking, gender affirming care reduces suicidality. And this is what Governor Cox wrote in his
it doesn't
letter.
He said
you can dispute that.
I don't know where you're getting this. We have studies, we have meta studies that go into
the pro-trans side.
The trans population is the most apt to suicide population in the country and on Earth.
What they observe is that there is substantial risk, mitigation of that risk, anywhere between 50 and 80% reduction in suicidality after they get gender affirming care.
That's obviously false.
Yeah, that's clearly.
I mean,
that's the I don't think so defense.
I mean, you're putting kids on fucking hormone drugs and 80% less kill themselves. That's nuts.
Yeah,
Woody needed some gender affirming care when he was that age. He could have used a little testosterone.
Oh my god!
Could you imagine?
I don't have a degree in child developmental psychology.
If we went looking at 12-year-olds and was like, that kid.
You don't need a degree to know that it is damaging to put healthy children on hormones that will impact their body in a negative way. Do you know how much more cancer there is for young girls who take exogenous testosterone therapy? A lot. Because it turns out you're not supposed to do that.
Taylor, I have a question.
Testosterone doesn't cause cancer, Taylor. Don't tell me that.
I would have to look at your studies.
It probably wouldn't for you, Kyle, because you're a biological male.
But it definitely wouldn't, right?
Taylor. When I was young, I waited for puberty and it didn't come and it didn't come and it didn't come until I was way too old. Would you have given me gender affirming care to be the boy I wanted to be?
Yeah.
No.
Right?
No, I would have waited so that you could be the man you are today.
Oh my God. No, I'm 16 years old with no armpit hair. This is not fair.
Yes, he has late onset puberty. He needs a little boost, little kick in the ass to get. Dude, he's got those butterfly wing pubic hairs. It's absurd. Like, even if he'd had like some fucking charisma and like he could have gotten laid at 12 or 13, if a girl had seen that, you're so lucky you didn't get laid like at 12 or 13. If a girl had seen your butterfly wing like dick hair, it would have been the talk of the town, because that is the most hilarious thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Is it smooth and straight?
It's the opposite
like
of a
Asian
racing stripe that the girls do. I just had it on the two sides.
On the sides.
I thought everyone's pubic hair came in so slowly that they spent 18 months with it just on the corners.
Yeah, you thought it was like a reverse Hitler mustache, but it wasn't.
I just had one growing in for a long time. It was like 3 or 4 feet long. It's like, what's going on here, man?
God,
I just with the trans thing, I always think back to Star Trek II: Wrath of Khan. When
an astute place to take your beliefs.
Spock has to go inside the engine chamber where it's incredibly radioactive, and it would have instantly killed a human, but because of his Vulcan physiology, he's able to go in there and fix the engine, and they escape, and everybody lives. And Kirk rushes to the screen. There's this glass between them because he's so irradiated it would kill Kirk to even touch him. And he's like, why Spock? And he's like, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or the one. And he's all like pockmarked from the radiation, and he dies. Kirk loses his best friend. He says, my once and always friend. And that's what I think whenever I hear that there's 3 trans kids in like Montana who can't play fucking beach volleyball. I'm like, well, sucks. You know what? I just didn't make the fucking team. I got through it. Get over it. You know what I mean? Like they didn't let me play because I sucked. Imagine that. Imagine how that feels. I toughed it out.
Does it ever get to a point where it feels like a pile-on? When we talk about like trans people, we're talking about a community.
It's easy to pile on when you dig a hole and crawl in.
We're talking about a group of people that report higher instances of abuse, higher instances of domestic abuse from their own parents, higher rates of bullying from their peers, and so
join the club. Welcome aboard to humanity.
Wait! I want to
look at this. When I look at this, it resembles that. Like, I understand people have good faith concerns about kids, and we can have those conversations. And I would hope that people would be agnostic to like the data and whatever that shows.
Wait, Hutch, you asked the question, but you didn't stop for any answers. You just kept answering it yourself.
Yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
Trans people have a higher rate of suicidality than Jews under Nazi Germany. Do you think the oppression they're feeling is greater than that?
Do you think that the social stigma contributes to that?
Almost had an answer.
Nah, didn't get an answer. No, not at all. Like you think that the stigma of Jews under Nazi Germany is similar to this? Because there's
I didn't say
kids
that.
shows showing trans characters.
You said it was not as bad
all over the place.
You're putting words in my mouth. I'm obviously not making the case that trans people that live in the United States had it worse than like Jews in Dachau. But there is a reason why they have a higher rate of suicidality than like veterans.
Yes, there is.
I think people like you jump to the conclusion that the reason is because they are mentally ill and people are feeding into their delusion. That's just not what like the
I think that they need. I think it's obvious that they need help mentally, and that the worst thing you could do is telling them a lot of that.
The worst thing, what you're saying is that, people should just tell them like, hey, toughen up. You're not a girl, blah, blah, blah. It just doesn't work. There's no data to support this idea that you're going to reduce their suicidality or get them to a mentally.
What do you mean? This wasn't a social trend.
I don't care about the risk of suicidality
until 8 years ago.
I guess I'm just
no. Trans people have been a thing for decades. It just became more of a prominent feature.
Oh, there's been a huge social movement of this before 5 years ago. Really?
Because the Supreme Court legalized gay marriage, and so conservatives lost that fight, and they just moved on to the next thing. This is the same kind of queer panic that was happening in the fucking 80s and 90s.
Whoa, that sounds a little.
People are cutting their dicks off. You're saying that's the same kind of queer panic that was happening in the 80s?
I'm saying that the demonization is the same. You guys, they said the same thing about queer people. They said the same thing about gay people. If we legalize gay marriage, they're going to want to legalize pedophilia next. Or if they legalize gay marriage, then they're going to want to marry their horses and shit like this.
Dr. Disrespect's opinion isn't included here. So the pro-pedo thing is done. But the thing is this, I just want to be nice to people. Let's go with the no victimizing policy. The reason I don't like that woman who competed on the Penn State women's team, even though she was a guy the year before, is because I felt like everyone else in swimming that year was her victim. Right? That makes it wrong to me. But if she wants me to call her she, I'm 1,000% on board. I just want to be nice to people and not have any victims here. But if that doesn't seem to be the Democratic platform, it's let her compete, and I don't like that.
Yeah, I don't like that either. It just doesn't work. And like
individual basis.
Just for sports, if we just make it the sports and we leave the fucking bathrooms and the dressing rooms and all that stuff out, like just the sports.
Dressing rooms are a big part of sports.
They've got to be separated, but they've got to be separated. Imagine combat sport or anything.
You have to be like an actual, and it's got to be retarded person to think that a biological man should be able to fight a biological woman in a fair UFC match. Like you can't just be misguided. You have to be an actual retard, like someone who takes all evidence of.
Those are good fights. There's like a freak fight league. Have y'all watched the freak fight league? They just do stuff like that. They'll have 3 women take on a man. They had 2 little guys take on the world's strongest man. He beat the fuck out of him.
Fucked him up, dude.
So I guess I'm an actual retard because I feel like it should be merit based, right? Like there are a few women who could beat up a few guys, right? Everyone grabs Ronda Rousey, right? Ronda Rousey would beat at least a lot of men. Most men, I don't know where it goes. But if you put some chump against Ronda Rousey, that's a fight I'm okay with because it's even and fair and merit-based. And if that means that if Taylor's referring strictly to world-class versus world-class, then of course he's right. But just make it merit-based.
I remember there was a Japanese or Korean girl that they were talking about putting on the PGA Tour. That would have been interesting. I've been fine with that. But it's like you can't go the other way. You can't have like Tiger Woods is in the twilight of his career. There are people complaining. Some guy complained that he gets like an exemption into the Masters or whatever, and they asked Tiger about him. The guy complaining and saying that Tiger should just get out and retire because he has no shot. Tiger's like, "Yeah, I get an exemption because I'm a former champion. Actually, I won twice here. He doesn't have such an exemption, and so even when I'm his age, I'll still be able to play here, but he never will." And it was like, "Damn, that's mean." I love Tiger Woods. But if he were to decide he was a lady, Tigress Woods, and he stepped down to the LPGA and started running shop, come on, it's not fair to those ladies.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. You can't let a guy compete with a bunch of girls in high school fucking softball just because the evidence is he says I am a girl.
Yeah,
it's even worse in sports that work with the mind. The physical stuff's a big difference, but chess. Driving in general, like just making decisions.
In many ways, this feels like the most superficial sort of aspect of the entire discussion, and it's just that it's the biggest focus, and it just doesn't make sense to me.
Because it's the end result. It's the end result of the make believe and I'll pretend and I'll be sweet to you and I'll call you that. The end result is there's a 6'4" man swimming with college age women and winning the NCAA fucking tournament. Like that's the end result of all the flowery language and the appeasement.
People largely on the left will say like, "Oh, why are they even paying so much attention to this issue? It's so niche." And then those same people will fight tooth and nail to make sure that a biological man can compete with biological women in a contest. And so it's like, you're pretending that the people who are against this are the ones fighting tooth and nail, when in reality, it's the people pushing it.
I actually think that the median Dem voter agrees with you guys broadly about like the sports stuff.
It's way on the bottom.
Normal people do. Yeah.
Right. That's what I'm talking about. This is like a super online thing where people will like, I think it's fine to have the debate about sports. Like it's an interesting conversation. And I don't think there's like an easy, like, I don't think there's necessarily like an easy solution. If you do like a trans only sports league, it's like, well, what the fuck does that mean if you live in Montana?
It means they don't get to play.
Travel eight hours to do a thing or whatever. But
if you're such a good athlete that being left out is going to change your financial well-being, I bet your parents can get you to a state over where they allow boys to beat up girls. Like, don't worry, we'll get you in there.
Regardless, I just think this is the most superficial part of the debate.
But Hutch, that's why I brought it up. It's not important. It's not a huge issue, but it gets so much airtime that it's an unnecessary weakness for the blue team.
Well, it's a place where
like gun violence.
Woody is so right in that assessment. 100%. Like it is such a clear and evident weakness on the blue team to be astute. But it's just we need to use our political capital to say that boys should be able to compete against, or that boys can magically become girls if they say so. Like that's it's a ridiculous assessment.
You can call it a culture war weakness, but so far it has not manifested in like electoral wins.
Say it again.
Amongst normal people.
Like a preacher. Say it again.
Woody's going to point to Virginia, but it's
walk into it.
Yes, sorry.
They tried to do the trans stuff in 2022. 2022, the Republicans were running on this trans stuff, like primarily all over the country. That was like the thing that they were pushing the hardest. And it did not work out well for them. Like Dobbs ended up being a way more salient issue to voters than the trans stuff. So
it's death by 1,000.
Yeah, it's not the most. It's not the most salient issue to Democratic or Republican voters, but it is something that undercuts Democrats. So, like when I see Democrats dying on the hill of little boys can pretend to be little girls, and we need to encourage that and put them on puberty blockers. Like I'm like, this is so obvious.
Can I tell you why it's a good issue for the right? The reason it's a good issue for the right is it allows
for the right it is because they're correct.
Well, the reason it's a good issue for the right is they're able to tear away voters from the left who otherwise they'd never be able to touch. Like very religiously conservative brown people and black people who are like, wait, what now?
Thank you.
Wait, what? That's what we're doing now? You can tear them away with enough of like trans terror. Or like red, it's like the trans fear, like the version of red fear, whatever you want to, pink fear, whatever. And enough of that will tear away some of those, especially like Catholic Mexicans. Oh, I don't know about that one. Like they're not getting on board with some of that stuff.